We need now to get into some news domestically, but still talking about China. And of course, I am talking about the hearing that happened today in regards to TikTok. So let's go ahead and get started into that. One of the big stories this week in the US House of Representatives is the hearing before the Committee of Energy and Commerce, where the CEO of TikTok appeared today. Let's go ahead and talk about it. There are legislatures on both sides of the political aisle who support banning TikTok in the US, as we reported before on this very show. And there are legislatures who don't think a ban should be instituted at all. The stated concern by those on the side of banning is the potential for the Chinese government to collect data on American users and use it for nefarious purposes that the United States doesn't have any control over. Already, TikTok has been banned from all government-owned devices in the United States, which is probably a fair thing to do. In fact, I would probably go as far as to say ban Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff if you're on a government device. That's me. The political storm surrounding China-owned social media platform continues to intensify, with the Biden administration threatening to ban the app entirely in the United States. The platform was first targeted formally by the Trump administration in 2020, with an executive order prohibiting U.S. companies from doing business directly with ByteDance, the owner of TikTok. Biden revoked that order in June of 2021 under the stipulation that the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment conduct a review of the company. When that review stalled, Biden announced that TikTok must sell all its Chinese-owned shares or face a ban in the United States. But is this even really a problem? Is China even now accessing private information about TikTok's American users? Is it China's intention to manipulate content for the purposes of influencing the opinions of American citizens? Those are the questions that we have to answer. And for China's part, China doesn't have a national security law that requires companies under its jurisdiction to cooperate with a broad range of security activities. TikTok is really only a national security risk insofar as the Chinese government may have leverage over TikTok or its parent company. The main issue is that the public has few ways of verifying whether or not or how that leverage has been exercised. As a reminder, TikTok doesn't operate in China, but its parent company, ByteDance, does. Privacy and security researchers who have looked under the hood at TikTok's apps say that, as far as they can tell, TikTok isn't much different from other social networks in terms of the data it collects or how it communicates with company servers. That's still a lot of personally revealing information, but it doesn't imply that TikTok's app itself is inherently malicious or a kind of spyware. That's why the concerns really focus on TikTok and ByteDance's relationship to the Chinese government, and kind of skirting the issue about how other companies control and process the data they collect on all of us. According to reporting from Mediaite, the platform has repeatedly denied the claim that the Chinese government has access to US user data. Today, the CEO of TikTok, whose name is Shou Chu, appeared before the House Energy and Commerce Committee, the first time a TikTok chief executive has appeared before Congress. He used his appearance to try to calm lawmakers' fears about data practices and commit to not allowing the Chinese government to influence TikTok in any way. Ahead of Chu's appearance, members of Congress criticized the company and Chu himself, suggesting that his testimony could not even be trusted. One of those members is a member of Congress is Senator Mark Warren from Virginia. We will now turn over to some of his words about this subject, where he did an interview with Scripps News. Let's go ahead and get that set up here. There we go.
But today, this app is viewed by many as one of China's newest weapons.
There needs to be a higher level of scrutiny for technology coming out of these adversarial nations.
Virginia Senator Mark Warner is chairman of the Senate Intelligence Committee. He agreed to talk to Scripps News about his concerns that TikTok is targeting the personal data of an estimated 150 million American TikTok users every day.
So one thing that we have to re-emphasize here is that every single social media app uses user data in order to make money. That is why they're all free. If I were to tackle this problem from an aspect of Congress, what I would do is actually go after that for every single social media company. Not because I trust China, but because this issue is something that we should all care about across all devices. I personally do not have TikTok on my phone. I don't have TikTok on my phone because of the issues being brought up by some of these senators. But that's because I know and because of my prior history with the US government that I don't want to necessarily have my data going to China. What we'll hear later on in the program with the testimony of Chu is that data is being kind of siloed within the United States. We'll also talk about some of the other things that senators bring up and Congress people and Republicans and Democrats bring up if their fear about Chinese media manipulation. But those media manipulation things exist across, again, all social media. So that's where the angle that I am personally coming from this. But let's go ahead and let this newscast continue, and we can critique and expand upon it as it goes on.
With all of it ending up in the hands of TikTok's Beijing-based owner, ByteDance.
They have to turn over any information, whenever requested, to the Communist Party. TikTok, ByteDance, their first loyalty has to be by law to the Communist Party.
Mining data is the norm for social media companies.
So the part that he just said about it turning over data to the Chinese government is probably true. That loyalty pledge exists for every single business that operates in China that is a Chinese-based business. There's some wiggle room with that when it comes to subsidiaries and that sort of thing. They do want to be able to allow American, European, Russian, whatever companies, African, it doesn't matter, whatever country it is, to operate within the country and be able to share its knowledge and expertise with China in order to build up China's local economy. So there's some things with that, but these are concerns that actually exist. And I'm actually going to skip this because I've already talked about this part of it when you're talking about social media in general. So let's go ahead and do that.
That is being used by the Chinese government to try to track and influence Americans, even spy on them.
We saw journalists literally being tracked because of their TikTok use. We saw the potential for this to be used as a propaganda tool. I'm not saying they're doing it right now, but I am saying at any moment in time, the Communist Party could say, well, we want to make sure that TikTok users only see videos that are negative about Taiwan or negative about America.
So is it?
So with what he's saying here about the tracking of journalists, this actually did happen. Or at least it appears to have happened. The United States intelligence community has reported on this, and some of the journalists themselves have reported on this. And these are journalists that have been critical of Chinese Communist Party, as well as other things, ex-Chinese citizens and the like. These are actual legitimate concerns. But again, I think these concerns go beyond just TikTok. I think these concerns go with social media in general, because social media sells its data to the highest bidder. So as far as the propaganda is concerned, I don't necessarily buy that. And we'll talk about later why.
More concern about the actual technology or about where the technology is coming from?
It's a little bit of both. You could be manipulated by Facebook. You could be manipulated by Google. At the end of the day, they're not responsible to an authoritarian regime that uses technology, frankly, to monitor and surveil its people at an unprecedented level.
All right. So that is all very true. That is all very true. So Warren's allegations that TikTok must overturn any information request by the Chinese Communist Party is not borne out by TikTok's CEO, though. We're going to turn now to Chu's opening statement. This is a long clip, but it provides a foundation of knowledge about TikTok's app that corrects some of the widely held beliefs about it. This includes who sits on the board of the directors for the company, where the company's data is stored, things of that nature. Now, again, some of these concerns some of the concerns I believe to be warranted. But again, that's where I'm at with this. And we'll talk more about it after this. So let's go ahead and get back into this testimony.
In Virginia. 2 years ago, I became the CEO of TikTok. Today, we have more than 1 billion monthly active users around the world, including over 150 million in the United States. Our app is a place where people can be creative and curious, and where close to 5 million American businesses, mostly small businesses, go to find new customers and to fuel their growth.
Yeah, this is true. So social media is very needed for small businesses because that's where most young people are. Anybody that is below the age of like 35 is not watching anything on cable news. They're skipping ads when it comes to YouTube. They're skipping ads, everything like all this stuff, right? They're doing all that things. And so if people want to reach an audience to sell their products, they have to use social media to do so.
Now, as TikTok has grown, we've tried to learn the lessons of companies that have come before us, especially when it comes to the safety of teenagers. While the vast majority of people on TikTok are over 18.
That's true too.
One of our fastest growing demographics are people over 35.
And that's also true.
We spent a lot of time adopting measures to protect teenagers. Many of those measures are firsts for the social media industry. We forbid direct messaging for people under 16, and we have a 60-minute watch time by default for those under 18.
Okay, so we need to talk about this a little bit. All that might be true, but there is no control mechanism for it. This is an issue with the way the United States handles social media in general for people that are not adults. There is no limits to it, and other countries have implemented limits to it. China being one of them, South Korea being another. Other countries are able to like socialize their kids to stay off the platforms a bit better than we are for various reasons, right? But there's no control mechanism other than a box that you check that says, I am over the age of 18, and then you're just allowed to do whatever the hell you want. I believe that's going to change in the United States soon. Maybe in the next 5-10 years, maybe it might take that long, but I don't see this being a thing that stays around for a while, for much longer rather, because of the amount of evidence that is being shown that social media in and of itself is damaging to children with long-term exposure and with access to things like pornography and the like. So Changebox says, first glance says that it employs roughly 8,424 employees and revenue is of 450 million. That's not a profitable business. This makes me feel like the real gain is the data. Yes, the real gain is the data. Data is the oil of our times. Just is. And Lola J, yes, I assumed that young people were the primary audience. It was at start. So for people that might not know, TikTok actually started as an app called Musical.ly, where young kids basically lip synced videos and things like that. And then it evolved into what it is today. Once the young people jumped on it and started making it popular and people started laughing at the videos that circulated on other media apps such as Facebook and Twitter, then older people started using it a lot as well. So that's why the fastest growing demographic for TikTok users is actually people over the age of 35. Same thing happened with Snapchat. Same thing happened with Instagram. It's what kids found the platform. Other people started gravitating to it because it's fun and new and interesting, exciting. People started to trust it more. And that's where we are today with it. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and let him continue.
We have a suite of family pairing tools so that parents can participate in their teens' experience and make the choices that are right for their family.
And I think TikTok does this just a little bit better than like Instagram or Facebook or Twitter. Well, Twitter I don't think does this at all. So I think that they're not being they're not lying about this. The problem is that is any parent doing it? Probably not. This is why that's why social media regulations need to come from on high about this stuff. And you can see that this person, ranking member Pallone, I don't know where, who he represents. I don't know every single congressional member, but ranking member of him. him. He is not having it. You can see it on his face. He's
We
like,
want
okay,
TikTok
buddy.
to be a place where
Sure.
teenagers can come to learn, which is why we recently launched a feed that exclusively features educational videos about STEM. STEM videos already have over 116 billion views on TikTok. And I think TikTok is inspiring a new generation to discover a passion for math and science.
This has been actually kind of one of those things that has been true for a lot of social media platforms when they've created these feeds that have been prominently introduced on the main landing page of an app. This happened when Reddit did it, when it represented some boards and stuff, that it got a lot more people interested in different things. But this is PR. This is just PR, so I wouldn't say that this is something that should necessarily excuse any of the concerns that we have about TikTok or social media in general. But it does give a little bit of a little wiggle in there.
Would also like to talk about national security concerns that you have raised,
and
that we
this
take
is the meat.
very, very seriously. Let me start by addressing a few misconceptions about ByteDance, of which we are a subsidiary. ByteDance is not owned or controlled by the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder. So
that global institutional investors include sovereign wealth funds of other countries, groups like BlackRock, JP Morgan Chase, probably some venture capital firms that put money into it from, that we just saw with SVB, and the like. It does include it. Well, I can't say that for certain, but it would not surprise me if it included also the Chinese government. But it should be noted that this is one of those things that a lot of countries invest in because they have these sovereign wealth funds that are designed in order to generate more money for their citizens and use for their own country's benefits. You can see this a lot with Denmark and Norway and the other Nordic countries, where they have a sovereign wealth fund and they take the profits of that fund and invest it directly into their citizens. Something the United States needs to get on with, but that is true.
And 20% owned by employees around the world.
ByteDance
has 5 board members.
Let me rewind that a little bit because I talked over it.
% owned by employees around the world.
Hold on.
By the Chinese government. It's a private company. 60% of the company is owned by global institutional investors. 20% is owned by the founder, and 20% owned by employees around the world. ByteDance has 5 board members. 3 of them are American. Now, TikTok itself is not available in mainland China.
Okay. So this is a technicality, in my opinion. So the TikTok app that we all know about is not. But there is a Chinese version of the app that is available. And I have to look up the exact name. I think it's Daiomo. Daiomo. TikTok. I'm going to look it up real quick. TikTok version China. Let's see. Douyin. Douyin. And Douyin has massive regulations on it. But that is not regulations on it because they're trying to manipulate the United States. But I want to finish up my comments with those, so we'll let them continue. But there does exist a Chinese version of this app, just like there's a Chinese version. Well, I wouldn't say it's a Chinese version, more like a Chinese clone of Twitter and of Facebook. Weibo. Weibo. Chinese Twitter. Yeah. Anyways, I can't remember the exact name of it right now, but there is a Chinese clone of Twitter because China has the Great Firewall of China that prevents a lot of information from getting into and out of the country to the larger world because they do highly monitor their own people. They just do.
We're headquartered in Los Angeles and in Singapore, and we have 7,000 employees in the US today. Still, we have heard important concerns about the potential for unwanted foreign access to US data and potential manipulation of the TikTok US ecosystem. Our approach has never been to dismiss or trivialize any of these concerns.
So when you're talking about the TikTok US ecosystem, he's talking about propaganda or manipulation of the algorithmic feeds that are not in line with how other companies within the United States operate in that way. The other stuff we talked a little bit about at length previously in this segment, but that's what he's talking about with this particular part of it. Let's go ahead and let him continue.
Address them with real action. Now, that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years, building what amounts to a firewall that seals off protected US user data from unauthorized foreign access. The bottom line is this: American data stored on American soil by an American company, overseen by American personnel. We call this initiative Project Texas. That's where Oracle is headquartered. Today, US TikTok data is stored.
I like how they call it Project Texas because, you know, Texas is like come and take it and all that jazz. Like it's very rah, independent. We're the best. And so like, yeah, when you think of when a lot of foreigners think about America, they really do think of Texas and California. It's wild.
By default in Oracle's service, only vetted personnel operating in a new company called TikTok US Data Security can control access to this data. Now, additionally, we have plans for this company to report to an independent American board with strong security credentials. Now, there's still some work to do. We have legacy US data sitting in our servers in Virginia and in Singapore.
So this legacy US data that he's talking about is data that had existed and was generated and collected and stored prior to the initiative of Project Texas. This is data that isn't as secured and wasn't under the same protocols as this data that they're talking about now that is more recent. I don't know the exact cutoff point between when this project started or when the transition happened, but that is what he's talking about here. So that data is still, I guess, somewhat vulnerable to outside intrusion, but not necessarily at the level that Congress and the neocons are concerned about.
We're deleting those, and we expect that to be complete this year. When that is done, all protected US data will be under the protection of US law and under the control of the US-led security team.
Yeah, the protection under US law, though, that's one of the rub things. I don't think, like, Congress isn't going to talk about it. We talked about it previously, but the United States, when it comes to data and what you can do with it, from a global perspective, is pretty lax. We don't have GDRP, which stands for, I'm going to look it up again. I should know this since I work with data. GDRP. GDRP is General Data Protection Regulation. That is the data regulation that the European Union has. It's where you have the right to be forgotten, how you have the right to access what data a company stores on you. And you can just, if you're a European citizen, if you're a citizen of any European country, you just send them a form letter and you are guaranteed you're supposed to get your data back in a certain amount of time. There's actually you have to do it within a certain time limit or you can be fined sort of situation there. You can also have the company delete it all, etc., etc. Yeah, that's a thing.
This eliminates the concern that some of you have shared with me that TikTok user data can be subject to Chinese law. This goes further, by the way, than what any other company in our industry have done. We will also provide unprecedented transparency and security for the source code for the TikTok app and recommendation engine.
Now, as far as any other player in the industry is concerned, I don't know if that is exactly true. I can't speak on that. I can say that some other companies that have that have data rules do not necessarily create data rules specifically for individual countries or individual legal regimes. When I worked for a multinational company prior to the one that I work for now, we were able to we basically followed GDRP because it was easier and cheaper to follow one standard and follow the more strict standard than it was to create different standards for each country in which we operated. With that said, I have read at some points, and I can't confirm this, so take this with a grain of salt like it's a rumor or what have you, that some companies such as Discord do not actually follow GDRP's recommendations and rules. They basically flat out say they refuse to. They would impact their business too much or what have you. So if this company, if ByteDance is not following GDRP, I'm not saying that they do. I'm not saying that they don't. I'm saying if they don't, then that is also of a concern and should be something that is investigated. Let's continue on, though.
Third-party validators like Oracle and others will review and validate our source code and algorithms. This will help ensure the integrity of the code that powers what Americans see on our app.
Now, it's the reason to keep bringing up Oracle is because in 2020 there was a push for ByteDance's for the American subsidiary of ByteDance, which is the company that he works for, to be bought by Oracle. A massive deal. I think it was going to be like $1 billion deal or something like that. And so they started structuring some of the stuff to make that deal go forward. And so they're still greatly partnering with Oracle on these things. What they're hoping to do is that they say, hey, we have Americans in charge. We have fail safes here. We have third parties investigating our app code under NDA, stuff like that, that you shouldn't be wanting to ban our platform. You shouldn't want to ban us from the United States. Maybe. I mean, yeah, I'll talk more about that. Well, I do think that if the United States was able to get extra regulations to ensure that that firewall is being maintained, maybe a ban isn't necessarily needed. Just saying.
We will further provide access to researchers, which helps them study and monitor our content ecosystem. Now, we believe we are the only company that offers this level of transparency.
I mean,
trust
company
is about
needs
actions
to.
we take. We have to earn their trust with decisions we make for our company and our products. The potential security, privacy, content manipulation concerns raised about TikTok are really not unique to us. The same.
That's true. The content manipulation issues are not unique to TikTok. This is an issue that is industry-wide. 100% agree with that.
Issues apply to other companies. We believe what's needed are clear, transparent rules that apply broadly to all tech companies. Ownership is not at the core of addressing these concerns. Now, as I conclude, there are more than 150 million Americans who love our platform, and we know we have a responsibility to protect them.
It's about half of the country.
Which is why I'm making the following commitments to you and to all our users. Number one, we will keep safety, particularly for teenagers, as a top priority for us. Number two, we will firewall protected US data from unwanted foreign access.
Good.
Number three, TikTok will remain a place for free expression and will not be manipulated by any government. And fourth, we will be transparent and we will give access to third-party independent monitors to remain accountable for our commitments.
So one of the things I do want to bring up here is that the TikTok heater button, and we've reported on this before, is that TikTok, hold on. Oh, wow. So this is weird. Heater button. There he goes. So this is reported from Forbes. I'm not going to go deep into this, but TikTok has a secret heating button that can make anyone go viral, which basically what happens is what they do. And the article here basically goes over it. I'll go ahead and drop this in chat really quick. Hopefully that gets to y'all. The article basically says that after a certain number of views, TikTok can look at a video and then the platform itself can go in and push the button and make it pop up on pretty much everyone's feed. I have no reason to believe that other social media companies are not doing this, which means I believe they are doing this. I believe that's how maybe they'll make some of their money. But the idea that nobody has the ability to do this is a little bit of a fib. They said that no government would have the ability to do that, which is probably true. But again, these are why some of these concerns exist. So some of tech critics have stated that while TikTok's data collection does raise concerns, its practices are not much different from those of other big tech companies. Quote, holding TikTok and China accountable are steps in the right direction, but doing so without holding other platforms accountable is simply not enough, said the Tech Oversight Project, a technology policy advocacy organization, in a statement. Continuing on, they stated, quote, lawmakers and regulators should use the hearing as an opportunity to re-engage with civil society organizations, non-government organizations, academics, and activists to splash all big tech companies' harmful practices. End quote. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk about here is with the manipulation part of it. And the reason I want to talk about the manipulation part of it is because this is where a lot of the right wing and other conspiracy minded people, I'm not saying that all right wingers are conspiracy minded, I'm saying that, other conspiracy minded people on the left and right and whatever, like I'm separating these two groups out here, are focusing much of their attention on TikTok. And the reason they're doing that is because of the TikTok, because of the Chinese version of TikTok, Douyin, because of Douyin does not have the same reach and does not have the same free reign that TikTok does in the United States. And conservatives fighting the culture war that they are very much think that China is preventing Chinese citizens from seeing the things that are going viral in the United States, while also promoting those things they consider to be quote unquote degenerate into the United States. This is why they are talking about it, because they can't fathom a world that doesn't have some kind of secret over cabal controlling it. They don't understand chaos. They are against chaos. It's one of the founding principles that these people have. They have to have some form of order in order to make sense of the world. So if you have people talking about going through trans care, taking testosterone, taking hormone replacement therapy, and then a bunch of mostly girls being on TikTok talking about mostly trans men on TikTok talking about their hysterectomies or top surgery or what have you, then to these conspiracy minded people, the fact that that's not happening in China because of Chinese government regulation on all of Chinese society, and the fact that it's blowing up in the United States, it must be a nefarious plot to them. This is outright fucking insane. There is no reason to believe this at all. While the ability to artificially promote narratives on social media is actually a thing, we've seen it. It does happen. People get paid to promote propaganda. All that stuff is true. It happens across all of social media. There's no reason to link that specifically to TikTok and what happens in China. China monitors its citizens highly. A lot of things that a lot of conservatives would like to have happen in the United States when it comes to cultural promotion, when it comes to taking on gay issues, when it comes to taking on trans issues. These things, or even just mindlessly playing video games for hours. These things are not allowed in China because China goes through not just manufacturing consent, like in the sense that we talk about it in the United States with Chomsky and lefties and the like. It is massive censorship, massive social manipulation, massive control on a scale that is unfathomable to many people. It is just on that kind of scale where you can't even go from one town to the next without having your face scanned to know who you are during COVID. So of course the Chinese government is telling the Chinese version of TikTok, don't allow teenagers to use your platform for more than an hour a day, or we're going to close your entire application down and you won't be able to make money anymore. Of course that it's only letting its children see things that are quote unquote socially responsible in the Chinese government's mind, because that is how China operates in general. You don't need a nefarious plot to see these things, to have it happen in the United States. All you have to do is have no regulations whatsoever when it comes to children accessing social media, and then social media just being the bonanza of a free speech, anything goes, libertine type of society that creates the kind of society that we have just in general. You know, with the weird hang-ups that everybody has about a variety of different things, which we can talk about at length in another video. But I hope that I am making the case here that the idea that it is just this mass manipulation of American teenagers in order to like destroy society that has been really, really pushed by a lot of people online. Anti-Chinese people, or anti-Chinese government people, I should say, a lot of neocons that are looking for the next great enemy to fight, is just utter nonsense. Full stop.